Welcome to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm Jaime Agostino, your host. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, Jeanne Heath, the Learning and Engagement Champion for Vizo Financial, is back to talk more about onboarding. Jeanne, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. I'm excited to be back. This is fun for me.
Good. Today, let's focus on building and maintaining an onboarding program. All right, so here's my first question.
Yeah.
How can credit unions start building an onboarding program if they don't already have one? What steps do they need to take to get started?
I think I'd say, first of all, it's probably important to name somebody who will be your onboarding coordinator. That's probably a good first step. And especially since, in credit unions, a lot of onboarding happens at each of the different branches, so that can lend itself to a lot of different experiences for people. So look in your organization, or maybe it's in your HR department, for somebody that would like to champion the program, and they'd be in charge of taking care of everything, knowing what's going on and sort of guiding people through the program. And then I think it would be, once you have that person, again, going back and thinking about, what have I done? What are we doing already? What do we need to do? I think an idea, when you're like, what do we need to do? Even to engage your existing employees. We talked in the first one about new employees, but the other thing is, you could engage your existing employees. Like, if you, at your branches or your main office, put up a piece of flip chart paper and just say, like, hey, what ideas might you have for our onboarding program? What a great way to bring people into it, get a variety of ideas and diversity. And the more people can give their ideas, the more they're tied to the program. So I think that's it. Think about, what's working, what isn't. And then the other thing is, again, depending on your size and the staff that you have, you might not be able to do everything right away. So pick the low hanging fruit. What can we do easy right away? Again, it's still going to make a difference for people. Or if there's something that you think, well, maybe it's not low hanging fruit, but I think this would make a really big impact, then just do that one thing. Focus on that. Um, I think, and if you can't even do that and time is so short and tight, make a checklist for your managers. For once that employee goes through, the cultural piece, give the manager a checklist of what to cover. It occurred to me as I was thinking about this podcast and preparing for this one, I keep talking about the cultural piece of your onboarding. You might not even have one. And if you don't, that's one you want to have then. Again, it's not just the paperwork and how do I do my job and how do I sign in, but what's the organization like? Where are there areas that I can get involved in? How do I know what type of organization this is? All really, really important. And I think that those kinds of things are the beginning of the roadmap, and then you can go from there.
Okay. How do you see onboarding evolving as we continue to work in more of a remote work environment?
I'll tell you, for me, and I think you said this in my intro in the last podcast, I've been doing onboarding for a long time. It is a passion of mine, and I really like doing it. Sort of like at the beginning of the pandemic, when people thought there's no way we can work from home, we can't trust people. I sort of had that mindset with, there's no way we can onboard people remotely. Like, what is that all about? And you absolutely can. And, it doesn't have to be just because the pandemic. Maybe you have a credit union that you have remote branches where you need to onboard people. So it absolutely can be done. How do I see it evolving? I think one of the things you have to have is a lot more communication. Um, I think the times if you're in the office and you're onboarding someone, you've got a little bit of downtime. You might say like, "Hey, take the next hour and look through the employee handbook and get used to signing on." Well, during that time, the employee might get up to go to the restroom and then they're going to meet people on the way. They're going to look around. They don't have that when they're at home. My employee restroom is like 4 steps from right here, and I don't see anybody on the way there. So you have to be a lot more intentional. That hour can seem like a lot longer. So I found there's a lot more communication, a lot more check-ins. Um, the other thing I would say that I've noticed, and maybe you have a little insight on this, Jamie, as well, is um, because our credit unions do a lot of face to face with members,
Mhm.
they don't have a lot of cameras. And one way that you are going to engage your people virtually and as we go forward is through the video camera.
Yeah.
So even if your tellers aren't using them, have an office set up with one. You've got to do it because if you're onboarding someone and it's a weeks long process and all they're doing is hearing your voice, not only are you not engaging them, you're probably disengaging them. And I see you shaking your head. Do you agree with that, Jamie?
Absolutely. I mean, even just we've done some virtual events and they're so interactive and dynamic that you want to see the person's face because, like, yeah, voices, yeah, there's a fluctuation in my voice, but facial expressions, eye contact, and I realize we're not, but I'm looking right at you in your eyes.
Mhm.
Like, we're still having eye contact. Like, those things are just so important to building the relationship.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree 100%. You need to have the cameras. Um,
Yeah. And these are not, I mean, we're not using like high tech cameras. These are little tiny ones that I think cost like $50. So it's not a big expense. When you go back to what we said last time about, a strategic business decision for onboarding, this is part of that.
yeah, comes back to that and being intentional.
Hmm. Yep. I think also, as I see it evolving, you're going to be excited when as you build this program and you're going to think it's great, but just like society today moves so fast, and what's new today is old hat tomorrow, or what's a surprise today is expected tomorrow. So you're going to have to constantly be thinking about, how do I tweak this? Is there something small that we can do to change things? I'll give you an example. We were just talking about it. Part of our onboarding program is we gave all our employees a piece of logo wear, and we're a business casual environment. At home, we're probably a business super casual. But we used to give all of our employees polo shirts when they started. Well, now people don't really want a polo shirt because they're at home and they're like, I don't really wear a polo shirt. So we just said, okay, well, let's adjust it a little bit. A couple times we've given our employees logo wear gifts and they've bought things like a fleece or a little jacket or a thin sweater. So let's adjust it so that the employee can pick what they want for any kind of wear at home. That's just a small tweak, but it's something we needed to do because it's just a little bit different in a remote environment. Um, so I think those are the things that you're going to see. And I just think when we talk about evolving, not that on-site onboarding won't happen, but I think remote might happen more.
Mhm.
And probably the other thing is you're going to have probably two versions of the program, similar but different. Because just like virtual onboarding was different than in person, you can't just go back now and do in person. It's different. Like even if I had to do in person at our office, there's like 4 people there a day, so you almost have to have two versions of the same program to meet the needs of the employees.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads into my next question. I was going to ask you, how can credit unions keep their onboarding programs up to date and relevant?
Hmm. I think it's goes back to what we're saying, intentional and purposeful. Put in scheduled checkups. go back like once a quarter, look through your documents, look through your program, what needs to be changed, what needs to be updated. And this is just simple things like um, maybe somebody has left the organization, so you've got to take their name off of something, or maybe you have to add a phone number. Those little things are going to make a big difference to people. So, I think you can keep them updated and relevant by regularly, like I use the phrase regular care and feeding of the program, checking in, always thinking about it. What can we add to it? Um, and think outside of the box. Don't ask other people as well. Um, One of the things that we are updating to keep ours relevant is part of our program is we had a video where different groups of employees would welcome the new employee. But that video was all on site. So they don't get any images in that of people working from home. They don't see any images of this, like Zoom meetings. So, we were like, oh, this needs to be updated to include what our current workforce really looks like. Um, so you want to think about that. Are you, um, does your program look like all of the people and all that you're hiring? Does it include things that would appeal to all different types of people and individuals? So that's how you can keep it relevant by keeping it current. And I would say quarterly is probably the max that I would go out for check-ins because stuff changes a lot. And the other thing is, if you wait too long, you'll have too many changes, and then you as the coordinator will be overwhelmed as well. Yeah.
I think we both can agree, the onboarding is a very involved process for a number of parties.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best approach to streamlining it so it's not overwhelming?
Well, I think again, start with your base program and make it as easy as possible for you to go through. I find the checklists. When I talked about checklists before, I don't have checklists just for the managers. I have a checklist for myself as the coordinator. What do I need to do as those things? And they help me to not be overwhelmed because I can just go down. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? The other thing I found is, when you start your program, and you get people involved, they're going to start coming to you and they're going to be like, oh, you need to update this. Oh, you need to add this to the onboarding program. And that's helpful, to do that. So I think streamlining it is those two things. I'd have one person that oversees it all and is in charge of making those changes and creating it. And having checklists for each of the different things. Because the other thing that does too is, what if the person who coordinates your program gets a promotion and they're not able to do it anymore? Those checklists ensure continuity. And it's also a great place for the next person to start so they don't feel overwhelmed. They can bring their own flavor and they can bring their own ideas. But again, it's creating that baseline of this is where you want to start from. And I think it also just makes it a little less overwhelming. The other thing is checklists for me help me to know, are there things that I can ask other people to help me with in the program? That way it provides developmental opportunities for people. One of the things that we struggle with in smaller organizations is how do people grow? How do they move into their next? And growth anymore is not always, horizontal. It's a lot more vertical. So things like this, this might be an opportunity for someone who's ready for more responsibility. Let me give them this part of the program and they can do that and they can add it and you're broadening their skills. And I think that's really a way that you can streamline it. And the more people that help, many hands make light work. So I'm not saying don't have a coordinator, but the more you can then involve and sort of oversee, I think that can help if you're feeling overwhelmed.
Okay. Well, and Jeanne, you're talking to the person with discipline and consistency. So I love the checklist. So
Yes.
Yeah. I can't speak for other hiring managers, but for me, I love them. So please keep adding to those. Those are fantastic. How do you keep new employees interested in all the activities and try to keep them from experiencing information overload?
Well, you're right, that can happen. Um, but the other thing is sometimes we treat people the way we like to be treated, and in terms of the golden rule, that's okay, but I find sometimes with onboarding that we make the assumption too soon that people are overwhelmed. Because to us on the inside, this is another task that we're doing. So we might feel overwhelmed. But remember, this is a new experience for the new hire. So it's exciting for them. So just be cautious around, are you giving too little? I would say, keep them interested, give them more of a variety of things. The way you can help with overwhelming is not everything has to be on camera. Maybe I say, hey, take the next hour and, go check out our website, see what you can find, bring me back some questions. And then after that, take lunch. So now you've switched up the activity that they've done. Um, but the other thing is, a good onboarding program is not orientation, so it lasts longer. A standard program, 90 days is really the minimum. Some programs go as long as a year. So making sure that you are spreading out activities over that time helps to minimize feeling overwhelmed. But the other thing it does is it makes sure that that employee doesn't feel like they were forgotten about. Because think about it, if you go to all this effort to create this really engaging program that's so awesome for their first couple days and they get a checklist, and then 30 days later you haven't even talked to them, it's like, oh, it seems fake. Like, oh, I put on all the makeup for the first date, but now you really see me. We don't want that. So schedule different things over the time frame. We one of the things that we do in our program is um, we schedule like 20-minute meet and greets with lots of different managers to get to know them. Well, do that over 90 days so that they're consistently meeting new people. Um, and that goes on for that time period. And in between, remember, they're going to have things like compliance that has to get done. Um, but also the time to learn their new job. So I think making sure that you don't feel like you have to do all this in the first 5 or 6 days helps with that. Now again, it's a balance because I said, especially if you're virtual, there's a lot more communication. um, but again, just build in different activities or different things or even check-ins. You should, as part of your onboarding, you should be having a monthly or a regular one-on-one with your employee. And that's just a chat. How's it going? What's been the best part of your experience so far? What do you wish you would have had? Asking those questions. Each of those are different experiences. And remember, they're also then getting to now become part of the team. So some of their experiences are happening organically because maybe they're doing lunch, just with the team because that's what they did today. Well, that becomes an experience for them. So I think it's make sure that it's not just in the first few days, and know that you're a piece of a bigger picture. And it's even as your coordinator, I check in with them. How's it going? Because sometimes they don't want to tell you as their manager what they might be struggling with, but they'll tell me. So I say, hey, how's it going? What do you wish you had? What can I do to help you? Um, I tell people all the time in onboarding, I want to be your secret weapon. If there's something you don't know and you think you should, come to me. I'll see if I can find you that info and I'll make it look like you knew it all along. And now of course I'm not talking about job specific tasks, but anything to help them feel like part of the team, provide opportunities and things like that for them.
Okay. Well, we focused a lot of our discussion kind of on the employee onboarding, but should credit unions also have an onboarding program for new board or committee members? And if so, what should that include?
Yes. And again, this was a learning piece for us. It was like the natural evolution of our program. We didn't have it right away, but we were getting so much positive feedback around our program that people said, "Hey, well, what about doing this for board members?" And for me, that had been my first experience. I was like, I never even thought of that. So I would say put it together. What should it include? It's really a lot of the same thing you're doing for a new employee. Your new board member is a new employee to a certain extent. Um, Now, things you have to keep in mind, because this person is a senior executive probably in their organization. So, from a time perspective, um, but we put ours together in like almost an electronic e-magazine for them, where everything was together. And we included a lot of the same things. What was our vision? What was our values? What is a link to our website, to our products, so that they could spend some time looking at our products as well. Um, but we also then set up different meetings for things that they needed specifically for the board. So, like, how do you submit an expense report when you go to a board meeting if you have expenses? Um, what we let them, and the board onboarding also has a coordinator separate from our regular onboarding. And that person helped them. What are you going to expect in your first board meeting? No one wants to come dressed in a three-piece suit and find everyone else is in golf shirts. So it includes that kind of information. We also, though, included meetings with different managers to get to know the products. But also it builds confidence in that new board member in the team that you have running your organization. Um, so the other thing that we did is we tried not to make another tool where they had to go somewhere else. We made this e-magazine so that it has notes pages in it that they can write in electronically, so that they would bring it with them to board meetings. All the information's right there. They can take their notes, things like that. Committee members, I'll tell you, we did think about that, but we found that there was a lot of overlap if they were doing onboarding to the board and then to the committee. What we do there is more really making sure that the handoff, if they're now leading a new committee from the last leader, is really purposeful and talks about everything they need to make sure they're doing and what their responsibilities are. So we didn't see that piece, but absolutely, I would, put that on your down. If you've done nothing, put that on your down the lane path. If you already have a program, that's a next iteration. And I will tell you, we've gotten from a measurement perspective, um, our board member, I think we've had two that have gone through, and both of them have said, this is the best onboarding program I've ever gone through. Now, part of that, I'm like, oh, it makes me feel good. We put together a program, but I bet you part of that is also because they probably never went through an onboarding program on the board before. So again, you've got early, easy wins that you need to. So yeah, I would definitely put that on the list of things that should come up and be done.
All right. So as we've talked, obviously, I know, everyone watching knows Vizo Financial has an employee onboarding program. Obviously, we have a boarding committee member or a board member onboarding program as well. And you have shared a little bit about them, but do you have any more information you could just share just a little bit about Vizo's programs, what they include, et cetera?
Yep. As I said, we do a welcome pack that we send to our employees before they start to welcome them. And that's another change when we talk about staying current. We used to mail it to their home, because who doesn't love mail that isn't a bill? But we have found with people being virtual, not that we can't still mail it, but we've put together almost like another onboarding magazine, and we send it to them electronically. And it includes videos in it. Again, a lot of that information to get to know the organization. We also give them some swag bag that is logo wear, and you know who knew that chip clips would like be one of the most sought after item from people. You know, get a magnet and a little paper clip and your company logo, and wow, you have impressed somebody. But also, we've changed that to think about, well, what are things people might want at home too? So, we've got a water bottle in there. Um, some of the other things that we do is they typically have to go on site the first day to get their materials. So we always have somebody there to meet them. And it's typically their manager. And sometimes that manager will bring in a couple other people from the team. So we said that we do that as well. Um, Even though we can't do lunches now in person, we set up a Zoom like coffee break with our president and CEO. And he loves doing those because he's really he's a chatty David. He likes to talk. So he doesn't even anymore, I used to hop on to help facilitate thinking, ooh, is the conversation? Nope. He's like, sure, send them my way. And they love it. Again, they're like, wow, I'm already interacting with the CEO and it's not because I'm in trouble. We also have a card that we use that is signed by the person's team. Hey, welcome to the team. We're so excited that you're there. I did tell you we set up the different meetings with people. And we're always just looking for new things to do. One of the things that we do that has been helpful, I think, that we started with the pandemic for our existing employees, we have a variety of what we call shows, social opportunities for people to connect together, a chat and chew on Friday, learning about your strengths on another day. We're really purposeful with new people, with inviting them to attend and really encouraging their manager to have them attend early. Because with being virtual, other people all of a sudden are like, ooh, that's a new face. Who is that person? And it's a great way to get to know people. And all of that water cooler talk, that's gone now. So these kinds of opportunities are where you hear something that came up that you didn't know. We were talking this morning on an event where one employee talked about how they were participated in Wordle, that new online game. And another employee was like, oh my gosh, you mentioned that last month. You've got me hooked on it. Now I don't even know I'm like doing Wordle and Turtle and Dirtle and all these other iterations. So I think those are some of the things that we do. And then again, we provide support to the manager, within the form of checklists and those checklists are specific. What do you need to do even before they get here? What do you need to do the first and second day? How about the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And then also at the end, we follow up with an evaluation. We ask the new employee, how'd it go? What did you like? And we tie our questions and our program, a lot of what we do, to our Gallup Q12 employee engagement survey. So we ask them questions like, did you have the tools that you needed to do your job? Did you receive recognition, within a certain amount of time? Those kinds of questions. And we use that information that we get back to improve the program and to tell the managers how it's going as well. And yeah, so I think that's some of the things that we do, and I'll share next time maybe some of a little bit more the measurement and what the results of that are.
All right. Jeanne, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Really appreciate talking to us about building and maintaining the onboarding program. And as Jeanne just alluded to, we're not done with her yet. She's going to be back one more week to finish out our series on onboarding. So Jeanne, before I go into my close, any final comments for our listeners today?
Um, I I think if you already have a program, probably what's good for this is go check it out in the next couple days. Dust it off a little bit and just see, you know, what do we have that's working? What are the things, ooh, I need to work on? It'll help you prioritize and create that checklist that we've been talking about. Um, and if not, I said this in the first one, just start with small pieces. Again, all of this is meant to create a great experience for a new employee. You can't go wrong when you're trying to be very purposeful in creating a better experience. It's just going to make you a better organization.
Absolutely. Well, Jeanne, you'll be back next week. Next week, we're going to talk about measuring the success of your onboarding program. Before we close, I just want to thank Vizo Financial and their member appreciation events for sponsoring this week's episode. If you're not familiar with the member appreciation events, we have two coming up. We have a member appreciation reception, which is May 23rd at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey. This one is in conjunction with Cross States Credit Union Association's League annual event. We also then have a member appreciation luncheon. That'll be June 20th at the Marriott Resort and Spa in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And that's in conjunction with the Carolina Credit Union League annual meeting. If you want more details about either of those events or to register for those events, please visit www.vfccu.org. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Bye.